When I was 10 years old, the only console I had was my Nintendo DS Lite. Yeah, not the one you're seeing right now. This one is from a friend of mine, as my own probably was carefully dismantled in the waste separation area after Kid Me managed to destroy it by making it fall down 2 sets of stairs. Anyways, I love that console. I had plenty of games for it and I used to play them for hours unending. I used to carry that thing everywhere, and without it, I would never had the opportunity to experience what video games were. They quickly became my passion. I wanted to learn about them, see their history and gradual evolution through time. Because at the end of the day, these video games were still evolving. Until this day, they're still changing, they're still improving, they're still making heads turn every time there's a new generation. I still remember when I got an Xbox 360 at 12, or in 2017 when I had my first ever PC gaming computer. And yeah, that's still the same computer that I'm using until now for making this video. At the time, I was watching the videos of a small Italian YouTube channel who still is active to this day actually. It's called Dr. Game, The Phantom Castle. He made these well done documentary videos with some wholesome humor, and actually he always had some kind of plotline on them that was quite funny and engaging to watch. It kinda inspired me on the whole content I try to make, and yeah, this video is kinda inspired by his own. He made videos about old consoles, both the well-known ones and the stranger, odd, peculiar ones that I think nobody even knows except for him. And thanks to him, I learned about something that kinda made me have a chill down my spine. You see, as being grown in a world where video games are so prominent, I never thought about the fact that their market could have had a crisis. But that already happened, and it was long time before I was even born. TLDR, during the 1980s there was this huge American company called Atari, and it basically had the majority of the market on video games, especially home entertainment, thanks to the Atari 2600. By the start of the 80s, they had a pressure from competitors because they were making actually the better consoles than them, and that was scary. They were so much spooked, in fact, that they panicked, released 2 shit games, lost a lawsuit to Activision, yes, that Activision, to basically, I don't know, let their console be copied by any kind of electronic manufacturer ever. And after another series of debacles, scandals and whatever, conspiracies even, basically they crashed and burned and bring down the whole market with themselves. People recall this as the crisis of 83, the video game crisis of 83 actually. A crisis that for the first time ever made video games uncool, boring, made for nerds, and just another trend that was destined to die. I want to just stop right there and wind up the clock a few years and shift our focus from the far west to the far east. Imagine the land of rising sun, beginning to middle of the 70s. Lots of young people are going to work. It's the rise of the electronics consumer products and the start of this odd yet historically scary nation into its period of economic boom in the 20th century. In a family-owned company of toy makers in Kyoto who made a lot of money producing Disney cards. Anyways, their CEO, at the time middle-aged Hiroshi Yamauchi, you probably know him, decided to invest into the new venture of electronic games. he decided to found a research and development team in that company that came up with that time a console clone of one of the most defining game of the period, the legendary Pong, made originally popular by Bannerbox and continued by Atari, calling it the Color TV game. Yeah, very original name. And it became a local success, actually. Spearheading this company division was an engineer, whose works and ideas were so influential that he basically created the video game as we know today. And his philosophy became the breathing lungs of the company, who never fully gave him recognition for what he did. Because it's thanks to him if that company is now the biggest name in video games. Yet his dedication and influence were undermined by the company he worked for. So much they tried even the way to make his name be forgotten in the company history. But in the end, admitting that it was thanks to him if that company exists today. Oh shit, sorry. I forgot to tell you. The name of the company is Nintendo. You know, kind of the biggest name of the console and home entertainment market. But the real hero of this story is Gunpei Yokoi. Sorry if I'm going to butcher any pronunciation, I'm not Japanese. This is the story, the forgotten story, of the man who saved video games. So, back in 1983, video game market just hit a first historical low. In some places in the US, arcade machines were removed from the arcades and consoles were thrown in the garbage bin. Legend says that Atari even attempted to bury cubic tons of unsold game cartridges in a beach. Nintendo was working on a secret project who will come to revolutionize the market of video games. They were going to make a revolution, starting a new generation of video game consoles. And the man who's working the hardest to make that happen was Gunpei Yokoi. But wait, why Gunpei was just such in an important spot in the company? Why him and not, I don't know, Shigeru Miyamoto? Well, let's start again from a little back, but please, I know we already started back another time and we are already back in time, but this time I just need you to focus on the year 1966. Gunpei was just an assembly worker at Nintendo, and he was basically there from since a year, okay? But on one fateful day in this year, 1966, remember, basically Hiroshi Yamauchi, the CEO of Nintendo, he was expecting the factories. You say, who the fuck goes to expect the factories when you're the CEO? Well, he did. And by citing in Wikipedia, and I cannot kid you, this was real, he came to Hanafuda factory where Yokoi was working and took notice of a toy. An extending arm that Yokoi made his own amusement during spare time while doing maintenance. An extending freaking arm. This was the start of a partnership between the engineer and the businessman, who ordered him to make these toys before the Christmas rush. And these toys became a huge success. So much that Hiroshi quickly ordered all the designs for toys and games, and then founding in the 1970 the Nintendo Research and Development #1 department. There was also the #2 department, and assigned Gunpei to captain the ship. After a period of making toys, Nintendo shifted focus towards video games thanks to the success of the Color TV game, and Gunpei was quickly at work at new video games, and working with other legends of the company like Genyo Takeda and the one and only Spielberg of video games, and not kidding, is being called like that, Miyamoto. One day, while traveling on the Shinkansen, Yokoi saw a bored businessman playing with an LCD calculator by pressing the buttons. This is another quote directly from Wikipedia, and you probably know the whole story that follows, because it's a kind of a told and retold. In short, while a whole odyssey of miscommunication and misunderstanding with Yamaguchi and all other shenanigans, Yokoi conceptualized and invented another smash hit for Nintendo, being it the Game & Watch. And during the long history of these electronic toys and everything that came after, Gunpei introduced to the company his philosophy, something he called lateral thinking of video technology. Basically a fancy way to say we want to make new stuff by using old but well-tested technology that nobody would want even a penny to sell to us. A philosophy that in the future will prove bank for Nintendo. Just imagine about how successful because of that was the Wii, the DS, and later the Switch. This dude made the D-pad a standard for controllers, thanks to a plastic and aluminium chassis toy. Was he a genius, or everyone was just too dumb at the time to realize that you just need to know the cardinal points to express direction in a video game? His engineering influence made the success of the family computer system, later known as the Nintendo Entertainment System, in the rest of the world. And not to talk about that he created the daddy of portable video game consoles. You know, a little grey brick. You probably know it as the Game Boy? My mom doesn't know shit about video games, but when I tell you about I'm playing on the Game Boy, she understands that I'm playing video games. And this dude fucking invented it. It was now the 90s, and I bet he felt like he was on top of the world. He could have been a little lightheaded during this time, but somewhere in the way, I suspect he felt like he could dare more. Like he could just do something so controversial and new that might just work. He could really experiment and research on something, or maybe he was just a bit tired of the work at Nintendo and just said to them, look, give me a final project so I can develop it and retire for good. So, with an uncharacteristic total disregard of his own philosophy, he dove headfirst into a very experimental and not well-known and tested technology of virtual reality. Man, this man was really living in the future, but he was also 30 years too early, and this technology was experimented by some obscure American companies, barely, and they never had enough resources to make it a market available product in the first place. Yet, he wanted his project to come through for some reason. Against all odds, he did. He was named the Virtual Boy, and he was stupid, awful, sickly, and was retired after just 8 months since its release in Christmas '95. After that, he retired from Nintendo for good. Paradoxically, for purely coincidental reason, as he just wanted to live his later years as he pleased. The man was 54. Or at least, this is what was testified by his friend and collaborator Yoshihiro Taki, as many thought that Gunpei left because he was pressured by Nintendo to release the Virtual Boy in an incomplete state and face the consequences of his predictable yet tragic failure. His last adventure would become the Bandai Wonders one, a technically remarkable yet not successful little handheld that will carry the sorrowful legacy of being the last project of the man who saved video games, as Gunpei Yokoi, age 56, died in a tragic car accident in October of '97. For years, the legacy of this man was kept kinda silent. Only later, his biography made the world turn heads to it. Because without his spirit of innovation and innocent curiosity, we got many of the most fun games of the modern era, as he changed the company from producing game cards to reinvent the video game. 1983 will forever remembered as the time when video games were dying. But I like to think that the same year, a hopeful Gunpei rose up to the challenge and said, I have enough experience and knowledge on the industry to prove you that video games will not die so soon. We even just barely started. It's common for babies to stumble and fall right before they figure out how to walk. But when they do, they will never crawl ever again. And because of that, I like to think 1983 as the year where video games had their own start of a rinascimento type of year. An Italian term to say some kind of going out the Middle Ages. And it was thanks to people like Gunpei if we even play video games today. And for how big that industry will become, and is now today, I'm not surprised. He was a visionary. So this was the story of an engineer who lived in the economic boom of Japan, who saw the power of electronic devices and said, I want to make something fun out of them. And thanks to his spirit of innovation and willing to revolution the whole sector, he succeeded. And he dedicated his life to that project until the end. This was the forgotten story of Gunpei Yokoi, the man who saved video games.